Hello, welcome to section 2.6 on word problems involving percent. And we're going to be looking at two types of problems that involve percent. The first one is called a simple interest problem. We'll look at the second type later right here. What is simple interest? Well, interest, simply stated, is the amount of money that one would earn on a certain amount invested. The amount that we actually invest is called the principal, P. And the rate is the percentage of that principal that we earn on the account. So for instance, let's just say I found a nice bank account in which I could invest a principal of $100. $100. So I have this very nice bank account and I am going to put in $100 in it. I know that this account earns 3% interest. When we express interest, by the way, we always rewrite that in decimal form for our calculations of 0.03. So the interest earned, well, the interest earned is going to be that principal of $100 multiplied by the rate of 3%. And of course, that amounts to 3, which is to say the amount of interest actually earned would be $3. So if they're paying me 3% interest, that means that I'm going to be earning $3 for every $100 that I invest. Well, most problems involving investment, involving percentage, are actually quite a bit more complicated than this. For example, we're given the problem right here that an investor has a total of $10,000 to deposit in two simple interest accounts. And on one account, the simple interest is 7%. The other account has an annual interest rate of 8%. So we might ask the question, well, how much should be invested in each type of account so that the total amount of interest earned is $785? Well, we want to explain how this table is going to help us provide a solution to that. So if you look at the way that the table is organized, as we go across, in each column, we're going to be putting amounts for the amount of principal, the amount of rate, and that will give us the amount of interest earned. And if we take the principal times the rate, we get the interest earned. Now, how do we actually come up with these values that I've put into the table before we've even started? Well, if we multiply across, right, multiply across, then what's going to happen is on the first column of our principal, we should be able to add down certain columns. And in the first column, the principal, of course, the total principal was $10,000. So we want to make sure that whatever amounts we choose for our principals here at 7% and 8% add up to $10,000. Now, we're not told how much we need to put in each account, so that's why we're going to use a variable. And we say, well, we're going to put X dollars. Invest X dollars at 7%. What does that mean to us? Well, that means we're going to have 10,000 minus X dollars to invest at 8%. And so if I were to put in $5,000 and at 7%, I'd be putting in $5,000 at 8%. If I put in $6,000 at 7%, I'd be putting in $4,000 at 8%, and so on. The amount must add up to $10,000. For our interest rates, we're just going to put in the interest rates that we're given. Now, there is no total interest rate right here. We're not interested in that total interest rate, but we are interested in the total interest. So if we multiply across, X dollars at 7% gives me 0.07x. 10,000 minus X dollars at 8% is going to give me 0.08 times 10,000 minus X. And my total, of course, as stated in the problem, is $785. So I'm now going to put this together. As we can add down our first row, our first column, pardon me, to get our $10,000, we can also add up our column for interest. All right, so if we add these two quantities, that's going to give us our total of $785, and that gives us our equation setup. And the hardest part of any word problem for most students is the setup. So what does our setup look like? Well, according to this graphic organizer, 0.07 times x added to 0.08 times 10,000 minus x is going to give me a total of $785. So now I've got a nice equation in x that I can solve. I'll just go through some of the algebra right here. Let's go ahead and multiply. If we take 0.08 times 10,000, we get 800 minus 0.08x, and that will equal 785. And remember, if you're solving an equation, you have to simplify both sides as much as possible over here. So we're going to take 0.07x and subtract away 0.08x. That's going to give us the amount negative 0.01x plus 800, which is equal to $785. I'll subtract 800 from both sides. And so I get negative 0.01x is equal to negative 15. All right, well, let's carry on with this here. What does this mean to us? Well, if we want to solve for x, we're going to have to divide both sides by negative 0.01. So we're going to get x is equal to negative 15 divided by negative 0.01. Now, two things right here. This is actually a very easy fraction to solve, even though it looks like we've got this whole decimal thing going on. I'll point out that 15 is the same thing as 15.00. Now, since both quantities in the numerator and denominator are negative, if we divide that out, we've got positive numbers. And in any fraction, if I want to get rid of decimals in the denominator, I can simply shift the decimals over. It's like multiplying by 100, so 0.01 times 100 would be 1.0. Right, so I move that decimal over 2 places and I get 1. But if I do something to the denominator, I have to equally do it to the numerator, so I have to shift my decimal over to the right 2 places, which is the equivalent of multiplying by 100. That gives us 1,500. And so now we know then that our principal that we're going to invest at 7% will be $1,500. What's more, our other amount at 8%, so this is at 7% here, at 8%, we're going to take 10,000 minus 1,500, which is, as you guessed, $8,500. And that would be what we would invest at 8%. This is the question we were asked right here, and this helpful little table organized everything for us to make this solution a lot easier to find.